Hey friends, and welcome to the video. In this one I'm going to be busting down a pallet with just a handful of simple tools in such a way that it should guarantee you the most amount of usable unbroken wood with no nails left inside. This is Craft Studio, and let's get into the video. For pallet busting I only really need a handful of tools. These little scraps of wood, a simple club hammer and a small utility bar. Now you could just replace the club hammer and the utility bar with a claw hammer, which most people do have, but I found a club hammer works better for some good pounding action. Now you'll see all these tools in action here throughout the video, but I'll also have them all together at the end of the video so they're all in one place. I'll also leave them in the description below. So the way this pallet busting works is, first you have to find a decent pallet. And if you can't find that, then you have to find a semi-decent pallet. It's one of those things that are completely broken and rotting, just won't do. Here I've managed to grab a nice two-way standard pallet, which I really do prefer as they have those nice planks of thick support beams which can be used for a lot of different things, from legs to just thickening out tabletops. You then get a few pieces of scrap wood that's thick enough to survive a bit of a beating and tall enough to raise the bottom of the pallet off the ground once you've placed this longer piece of wood across the underside of the upper plank. It does sound complicated, but as you can see what I mean in the scene here, it's quite easy to understand. Then it's just a simple case of placing another piece of scrap wood on the support plank and smashing it with a club hammer. Now try not to bang too hard here unless it's a really stubborn nail, as this can actually cause the wood to split. Another tool that comes in handy and has more than earned its place in my garage is a cast iron nail puller. Now, it's not completely necessary, but it really does help in yanking out those pesky nails that are just too stubborn to come out easily. You can see here that this particular section was extremely stubborn as the nails were deep and had rusted over the years, but with a bit of force I did manage to get it out. In this next hammer pound, I did something that I do hope you never do, because I can guarantee you that it really hurts. So yeah, be super careful when you're pounding these pallets because you could really cause yourself some injury. After this section, I did have to go off and check myself out as my knuckle went purple straight away and puffed up a fair bit, but it definitely just looked like it was going to be no more than a bit of a bruise. Now as you can see here, I managed to get this last plank off the first side of the pallet, but this piece of wood was just too damaged to be able to use effectively, for me anyway, so it'll either be cut down and used as scrap for something else, or I'll just take it to our local recycling centre. Now once you've managed to remove a whole side of planks, the job does become a fair bit easier and much quicker. Once you've turned the pallet over, you only really need to place one of the pallet buster scraps under the plank next to the support beam, as you can see here, and then tap that support beam to release the nails. This part is really nice and straightforward, and instead of boring you with the whole side, I've just forwarded it to the last plank. Now I can finally release those wonderful thick support planks, which I'm definitely going to put to good use. I love these planks, but before I use any of these, I now need to get all these nails out. So Some of you may be laughing at my choice of clothing for this video, and to be honest, watching it back, I'm a bit unsure as to what I was thinking, but I guess I was feeling quite colourful that day, so yeah, that's the excuse I'm going to go for. As for finding an excuse for wearing socks and slippers together, I'm sorry, I just don't have one. So moving on swiftly. I decided to put gloves on at this point, but I definitely should have had them on from the start, as these pieces of wood are old and rough and they have the potential to give you a handful of splinters, so definitely wear gloves when you're doing this. The easiest way to get these nails out is by using a nail removal gun, which uses pressurized air to force the nail out, but I don't have one of these, so it's a simple case of tapping the nail on the pointy end, turning the plank around, then using my utility tool to lever them out on the other side. This utility tool cost me about £10 to £12, I believe, several years ago, and it has been used so many times over the years, and it's still going strong. It's definitely something worth having in your local tool collection. Now, one thing you want to be careful with when tapping these nails out is that you try not to cause them to bend, as it can make them quite a bit tricky to get them out, and since they're so old they can snap quite easily. If they do manage to bend, you can always just tap them back from the other side to try and get them straight again, but yeah, like I said, they can be quite old and rusty, so have the potential to just snap. I definitely need to find a different way of mounting my camera. As you can see here, it just gets knocked down, as I'm using a cheap mini stand that barely supports the weight of the camera itself, but I'll definitely sort that out in the next video with something a bit more sturdy and secure. Now comes the nail removal from the thicker support planks, and these need a little bit more force to remove as they're stuck quite deep inside the wood, but with the utility tool it shouldn't be a problem, hopefully. In this scene I'm trying to show that sometimes the nail is so rusty that when you try to pull it out, the head just snaps off. In this case, the nail puller is absolutely brilliant to have, as it can grip the body of the nail super tightly and gives you just the right leverage to help yank it out even without that head. So yeah, well worth having. But another tool that you can use are carpenter's pincers, but I find that the nail killer is just a bit better for the job. So here I'm removing the nails from one of the thicker planks, and as you can probably see, in comparison to the thinner planks, I'm needing to put a little bit more force into these nails to get them out. It's definitely a good idea to have a stable support base for this, and this is something I'm definitely going to create in the near future for one of my upcoming projects, as this metal step just is not ideal for the job. I do hope you've been enjoying this video so far, and I really don't like asking people for anything, but it's kind of one of the requirements of starting a YouTube channel, so here I go. If this is something that has been useful to you so far, then I'd really appreciate it greatly if you'd hit that like button, and if you feel like you'd benefit from more videos like this, especially videos where I'll be using this reclaimed wood for some cool projects, then maybe you'll consider subscribing and tapping that bell icon, as it really helps me out and helps push this content to other people out there who might be interested in this topic too. Thank you very much, and I really do appreciate it. Here there's a nail that's just a bit too deep into the wood to be able to get with the utility tool, so I'm going to use my trusty cast iron nail puller for this one. The nail puller comes in two attached parts, and the handle basically slides up and down. This means that you can get the teeth around the head of the nail, use the handle to forcefully pound the teeth into the wood around the nail, and then when you lever it to the side, the teeth grabs the nail under the head, allowing you to pull it out really easily. Like I said earlier, this tool isn't completely necessary, but it's definitely worth having in your arsenal for times like this. It's going straight in my basket. One thing that's really important, especially if you're going to be wanting to level these planks to make them nice and straight edged and perpendicular on all sides, is that you don't have any nails left hidden in the wood. Here there are two nails deep inside that I won't be able to get out even with the nail puller, so I'm just cutting this bit off with a handsaw, which leaves me with the rest of the plank to use for something else in the future. And after all that, here we have all the decent and reusable wood from that one pallet that we saw at the beginning of the video. I think I'm going to use this wood and maybe some of the other pallets that I've broken down to make an outdoor workbench, as trying to get all this done on the floor and on this little metal step isn't really ideal. I also need to tidy this space up as it's just a bit of a hot mess at the moment. Finally, just to reiterate and show exactly how I broke down these pallets with some close-up shots to help, you can see that I'm placing 2 scraps of wood on either side of the plank that I want to loosen. Then I get this longer piece of scrap and place it on top of those 2 smaller pieces, but under the desired plank. Finally, get that last piece of scrap and place it on the support beam and tap down with the hammer. If the nails are rusty and old, you may need to use a little bit of force. Here we have all the tools. We've got a simple plastic bucket to place all the pulled nails in, the pallet buster scraps of wood, a pair of gloves, a club hammer, a utility tool, and the cast iron nail puller. I do hope you've enjoyed watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.